Now let's take a look at the 2024-2025 expenditure. Now, I got this information from the Ministry of Finance's website. I will leave a description. I will leave a link in the description. I just pulled the information that was relevant to what I wanted to make my presentation on. So the government intends to spend so the government intends to spend 1.1 trillion 341,064,824,000 in the economy for the financial year. Now, the financial year begins on April the 1st, 2024 and ends on March 31st, 2025. And the government intends to spend this 1.3 trillion. 317 billion will go towards public debt servicing. So of this 1.3 trillion, 317 billion will go towards public debt servicing, which is 24% of this 1.3 trillion. 173 billion of this 1.3 trillion will go towards just public debt interest. That's 13% of the total expenditure is going towards public debt interest. 13%. So between the public debt servicing and the public debt interest, that accounts for 37% of the entire expenditure that the government intends to spend. Again, 37% of this 1.3 trillion is going towards public debt servicing and public debt interest. The other 63% or 849 billion will go towards all other expenditures. So the amount to pay teachers, police, doctors, um, um, customs officers, um, amounts repair roads, etc. 849 billion or 63% of the 1.3 trillion will go towards all other expenses. So if we look at it from a pictorial point of view, we see that public debt is a big chunk of the total expenditure that the government plans to spend in the economy. All right. Now, looking at the total revenue estimates for the 2024-2025 budget presentation, or what the government intends to collect for the 2024-2025 financial year. So, if we scroll down, we see that the total revenue, excluding loans that the government intends to collect for the 2024-2025 financial year, is 1,048,097,268,890. That was a mouthful to say. It's broken down as follows: customs, customs duties, taxes, 66 billion, income tax, 321 billion, stamp duty, 13 billion. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, I'm just selecting a few. Travel tax, 34 billion, general consumption tax, 300 billion, special consumption tax, 99 billion. So all of these figures will add up to 924 billion, 376 million, 286,037, right? And then we have non-tax revenue, 103 billion, transfer from capital development fund, whatever that means, 880 million, capital revenue, 14 billion, and grants, 4 billion. So all of these add up to give you 1 trillion, 48 billion, and some change, right? So what I really want to show you is this bottom part right here. So this is what the government intends to collect from the 2024-2025 revenue estimates. So now the expenditure, their anticipated expenditure is 1.3 trillion, uh, and their expected collection is 1 trillion. So borrowing, that's how they're gonna solve that. So they intend to solve that. So, but let's focus on what they intend to collect. 1,048,000,000,000 and some change. Now, public debt servicing and the public debt interest adds up to 491 billion, right? So the debt as a percentage of the revenue, so the 491 billion as a percentage of the total revenue adds up to be 47%. So what that means is that 47% of everything the government intends to collect, excluding loans, will go towards what? Go towards debt. Will go towards debt servicing and debt and public debt interest. So what I want to look at is the public debt servicing, the amount paying towards principal, 317 billion. Let's look at what the government intends to collect per line item and see if there's any figure that is bigger than the 317 billion that will go towards public debt servicing. We see that the only figure, the only place, the only figure, the only line item that is larger than the public debt servicing of 317 billion is income tax. So income tax is the only line item greater than the public debt servicing of 317 billion right here. Even GCT is not enough to cover it. Let's look at the interest, public debt interest. So this amount, 173 billion, they will pay towards interest on loans. So only two line items are greater than the interest, which is the income tax and the GCT. So public debt interest is greater than every line item except income tax and general consumption tax. What that means is that customs intends to bring in 66 billion. That would not be enough to cover this 173 billion in interest that the government owes. If they put everything they collect from customs on interest, just interest, they would not be able to cover it. So if they put everything they collect on special consumption tax and just the interest, they would not be able to cover it. So based on the numbers right here, debt being 47% of revenue, it means we have a debt problem. If you found this video useful, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my YouTube channel.